February 3rd, 2026. The world woke up to a headline no one saw coming. King Charles has done the unthinkable. He stripped his own son, Prince Harry, of every royal title, every military honor, every last thread connecting him to the crown. And this isn't some quiet family squabble swept under the palace rug. This is public, this is brutal, and this is permanent. But here's where it gets darker. The FBI was inside Harry and Meghan's California mansion just days ago. They walked out with evidence, hard drives, financial records, documents that allegedly reveal fraud, deception, and a betrayal so deep it's shaken the British monarchy to its core. This isn't tabloid gossip. This is a constitutional crisis unfolding in real time. So what did they find? And why has the royal family turned its back on Harry so completely that even his own brother refuses to speak his name? It was 8:30 in the morning, London time, when Buckingham Palace released the statement. The words were cold, clinical, and devastatingly final. King Charles had signed something called the Windsor Reformation Directive, a document so rarely invoked that most people didn't even know it existed. And with his signature, he erased his son from royal history. The statement was read aloud by a palace spokesperson, but make no mistake, these were Charles's words. He wrote that in light of verified findings by allied law enforcement agencies and substantiated breaches of public trust, he was revoking all of Harry's titles, military roles, and privileges. Not temporarily, not conditionally, permanently, and without the possibility of reinstatement. The Privy Council signed off on it, so did the Lord Chamberlain and the Keeper of the Royal Archives. This wasn't a rash decision, this was institutional, calculated, and irreversible. But what could possibly justify something this extreme? That's where the FBI comes in. On January 31st, federal agents executed a sealed search warrant at Harry and Meghan's Montecito estate. They weren't there for a routine check. They were there because someone, somewhere, had blown the whistle. And what they uncovered has sent shockwaves through two governments. According to sources close to the investigation, the FBI is looking into three major allegations. First, the unauthorized transfer of nearly $5 million from a charitable foundation into personal accounts linked to Meghan's commercial team. Money that was supposed to help veterans, families, and vulnerable communities allegedly vanished into a web of consulting firms and private entities. Second, investigators found a private encrypted server hidden inside the Montecito property. On that server were donor communications, identity verification documents, and foreign correspondence that were never disclosed to charity regulators in the US or the UK. In other words, they were operating in the shadows, keeping records that should have been public completely off the books. And third, there's evidence suggesting that at least 4 donor acknowledgements were forged. One of them allegedly used the signature of a deceased British veteran to promote a fundraising campaign for the Invictus Games back in 2023. If that's true, it's not just unethical, it's criminal. Now, here's where the royal family stops playing nice. Princess Anne, the no-nonsense daughter of Queen Elizabeth, held an emergency press conference at St. James's Palace. And she didn't mince words. She said this wasn't a quiet removal. This was a constitutional and reputational response. The monarchy, she declared, would not tolerate fraud, the distortion of military service for profit, or the abuse of the crown's symbolic power for personal gain. Then she said something that sent chills through the room. We choose national honor over familial silence. That's a direct shot, and it came from someone who's been quietly furious for months. Behind the scenes, Anne had been pushing for action since November 2025. She personally requested that the UK Charity Commission launch a special investigation into the foundation after red flags started popping up, a delayed grant to a Commonwealth Veterans Organization, discrepancies in financial filings, and then the encrypted server. Once American regulators got involved, it became a full-blown international investigation, and Anne wasn't alone. Prince William, the future king, was right there with her. William made a brief but pointed statement shortly after his aunt's press conference. He said that no one is above the values of duty, transparency, and service. His father's decision, he added, was absolute. And then he said something that felt deeply personal. It is my duty to affirm that we will defend these standards even when it costs us privately. Let that sink in. William just publicly disowned his brother, the same brother he grew up with, the same brother he walked behind his mother's coffin with, and he did it without hesitation. But William didn't just make a statement. He'd been working behind the scenes for months, coordinating intelligence between the palace's Legal Integrity Office and the Metropolitan Police. He helped draft a cross-jurisdictional memorandum that was handed over to U.S. authorities in December. That memo, now confirmed by government sources, was the key to unlocking the FBI investigation. So while Harry was living his California dream, his brother was quietly building the case that would bring him down. And the palace didn't stop there. Within hours of the announcement, the official royal family website was scrubbed clean. Every reference to Prince Harry's titles, patronages, and military honors was deleted. The court circular, the official record of royal engagements, now lists him simply as Henry Mountbatten Windsor. No title, no designation, no royal identity. Gone is his role as Honorary Air Commandant of RAF Honington. Gone is his position as Captain General of the Royal Marines. Gone are his patronages with the Rugby Football League and the Commonwealth Trust. And gone, most painfully perhaps, is his right to use the initials HRH in any ceremonial or philanthropic setting. A palace insider told the BBC that this wasn't personal retribution, it was a firewall. The Crown, they said, cannot and will not be associated with actions under federal investigation. But here's the part that really stings. Meghan Markle's name is all over the FBI warrant, yet she's been completely silent. No statement, no denial, nothing. And sources say that's because more disclosures are coming. U.S. prosecutors are reportedly reviewing her role in managing the foundation's finances, and British authorities are preparing to investigate whether she violated UK laws during her time as a working royal. So what exactly did the FBI find in that house? On February 1st, the Royal Communications Office released a classified summary of the evidence. It was synchronized with a press release from Buckingham Palace, and it laid out the case in brutal detail. The first major finding was fraudulent misuse of royal trademarks. Digital correspondence recovered from encrypted devices showed that Harry had personally approved the use of the royal crest, royal insignias, and the Duke of Sussex title in a commercial contract with a Dubai-based firm called Alamir Holdings Limited. The deal was signed in November 2025 and involved a multi-million-dollar content licensing arrangement. The problem? It was marketed under false pretenses, suggesting official Windsor endorsement when there was none. The second finding was even worse. The FBI uncovered 8 offshore wire transfers totaling $38 million. These transfers happened between February and October 2025 and were routed through intermediaries in the Cayman Islands, Singapore, and Abu Dhabi. The money was allegedly tied to high-profile real estate transactions in California and Qatar. And none of it was reported under the mandatory disclosure terms required by Harry's dual tax obligations as a UK citizen living in the United States. But here's the kicker. Investigators found that Harry had been using shell companies with royal-themed names. One was called Mountbatten Legacy Ventures. Another was called Crown Dominion Media. These weren't just questionable business practices, they were deliberate attempts to cloak commercial activity in royal legitimacy. And then there's the third finding, and this one crosses into something far more personal: tampering with legal custody documents. The FBI recovered files labeled Archie Protocol Final and LL Travel Override. These documents suggest that Harry had been working to bypass custodial monitoring orders that were put in place under something called the Windsor Accord of 2024. He was allegedly trying to obtain backdated affidavits that would falsely claim UK citizenship status for Archie and Lilibet in order to secure diplomatic protections under US law, US. Immigration officials confirmed that there were discrepancies in Lilibet's passport application data. And that's when this stopped being just about money. This became about the kids. Prince William followed with his own appearance at the Queen Elizabeth II Conference Center. His statement was scripted, measured, and devastating. He said that what began as compassion had been repaid with deception. His brother, he said, had violated the laws of the countries he lived in and dishonored the institution he was born into. And then he delivered the line that will be remembered for years. "We stand by the public, not above them." That's a direct repudiation of everything Harry and Meghan have claimed. That they were victims, that they were misunderstood, that they were driven out. William just said no, you weren't driven out. You betrayed us. And the consequences are stacking up fast. The royal household confirmed that it's cooperating fully with U.S. authorities. British prosecutors have submitted a notice of intent to investigate under the Proceeds of Crime Act regarding Harry's undeclared offshore holdings. In the United States, the Internal Revenue Service and the Department of Justice have opened inquiries into possible tax evasion, illicit asset shielding, and false statement filings. The FBI has forwarded a sealed indictment to the United States Attorney's Office for Central California. This isn't just a scandal, this is a federal case. And on February 7th, at 6:45 in the morning, King Charles signed Royal Order No. D226. It terminated recognition of the Duke of Sussex title. It removed all remaining HRH references from international registers. It disqualified Harry from the line of succession. It voided all ceremonial, diplomatic, and military appointments. And it instructed all Crown estates to sever fiduciary links to any entity associated with him. The final clause reads like an epitaph. Henceforth, he shall be recognized neither in title nor in duty as a representative of the Crown or of its historic lineage. That's it. Harry is out, completely. And there's no way back. But before all of this became public, there was one final, private reckoning. On January 29th, at 9:45 in the morning, inside the Crimson Drawing Room at Windsor Castle, King Charles convened a rare full-house royal assembly behind sealed mahogany doors. The only absentees were Harry and Meghan. This wasn't a family meeting, it was a reckoning. Princess Anne entered first, her face set like granite, clutching a red folder marked Devolution Dossier, Sussex Declassification. At her side was Sophie, Duchess of Edinburgh, her silence speaking volumes. Prince William arrived last, escorting Catherine, whose calm exterior concealed a storm of betrayal and resolve. She wore a simple navy ensemble, somber, deliberate, symbolic. At the center of the long table sat King Charles, his signet ring already removed, an unspoken signal of constitutional detachment. Anne opened the meeting by distributing redacted reports labeled FBI Evidence Montecito Vault. The documents privately submitted to the Crown were staggering. Contained within were references to an unlicensed offshore media fund registered in Meghan's name, digital contracts outlining non-disclosed brand exploitation deals using children's photos, and 3 encrypted hard drives stored in a panic room vault, with emails allegedly detailing monetization plans involving internal palace records dating back to 2019. Prince William, fists clenched, broke the silence first. We warned him. We warned them both. But Harry didn't just sell the family. He sold the institution, and he used our children to do it. Princess Anne reportedly responded bluntly, "He is no longer to be treated as Windsor-born. The shield no longer protects him." Charles, visibly aged by the hour, finally spoke. "We protected them with silence, and they returned it with a playbook of betrayal." In the corner of the room, Catherine sat still, only lifting her head to say, "I won't allow our children to grow up under the shadow of a manipulated history." At that, King Charles stood and issued what would later be confirmed as Verbal Order 73B. As of February 1st, the subject formerly known as His Royal Highness, the Duke of Sussex, is stripped of all royal titles, privileges, and line of succession entitlements. This wasn't just an erasure, it was a controlled demolition. Princess Catherine delivered a rare public speech at Windsor Chapel days later. Though she made no direct mention of recent events, her final words resonated with unmistakable precision. "It is not the crown that defines character, but the conscience that honors it." The crowd responded with a standing ovation, and several members of the press noted that Catherine wore Queen Elizabeth II's sapphire and diamond brooch, a symbol historically associated with moral clarity and continuity. Finally, public sentiment continues to swing heavily in favor of the royal family's hardline stance. In a nationwide poll conducted on February 5th, 79% of respondents said they supported King Charles's decision to revoke all of Harry's titles, and 85% believe that Meghan should no longer be referred to with any royal styling. Perhaps more telling, over 91% said the monarchy was right to protect its legacy from further exploitation. As of today, the gates of the House of Windsor are firmly closed, and the world has been given one final message. The institution may forgive, but it will never again be fooled.